What's up, world? I'm Cameron McKinney, and this is Pop Culture Spotlight, a podcast about the movie You Hurt My Feelings. Here's a quick synopsis. Beth, a novelist, is devastated to learn that her husband may not be as big a fan of her work as she previously thought, and it makes her rethink their entire relationship. The film stars Julia Louis Dreyfus, Tobias Menzies, Owen Teague, Michaela Watkins, Arian Moayed, and Jeannie Berlin. Standout performances. Julia Louis Dreyfus is one of the most celebrated TV actors of all time. She's an 11-time Emmy Award winner for 3 different series. Seinfeld from 1989 to 1998, The New Adventures of Old Christine from 2006 to 2010, and Veep from 2012 to 2019. And then when it came to movies, for the longest time, she just wasn't in them. She had a supporting role in National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation and voiced a role in Disney Pixar's A Bug's Life, but lately she's been doing more and more film work, and the best of which has been with You Hurt My Feelings writer-director Nicole Holofcener. Their first film is 2013's Enough Said, which paired Dreyfus with the late great James Gandolfini. It's about 2 divorced people starting a relationship. I have some theories as to why her movie career hasn't taken off in the same way. Dreyfus is arguably the best comedic actress of all time, and one movie genre right now is struggling the most in movie theaters: comedies. I look at 2 of her recent movies, 2020's Downhill with Will Ferrell and You People with Eddie Murphy and Jonah Hill, that came out this year, and both of those movies don't know what to do with Julia Louis Dreyfus. She is underused in those movies, and in both of those movies it doesn't feel like she's playing a real person. When the likes of Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, and Jim Carrey were making hit after hit movie, Julia Louis Dreyfus was on TV. That's back when comedy movies were thriving. Now they are at an all-time low, and the comedy movies nowadays don't know what to do with Julia Louis Dreyfus. She is too good to be in movies like Downhill and You People. In You Hurt My Feelings, she plays Beth, whose entire identity is in her work, which she thinks her husband loves. She feels like a real human being. It's a brilliant, subtle performance from Julia Louis Dreyfus. Another thing that's been happening with Julia Louis Dreyfus lately is she has joined the Marvel Cinematic Universe. She appeared in Falcon and the Winter Soldier as Valentina Allegra de Fontaine and showed up in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and I've been underwhelmed, to say the least, by her character, and I don't at all think it's her fault. She's joining Marvel during a rough patch. She will next be in Thunderbolts, which I hope gives her a substantial role. I feel bad for all the great actors joining Marvel nowadays, like Julia Louis Dreyfus and Harrison Ford, because back in the day when Marvel was at the height of their powers, they knew what to do with movie stars. Now they don't know what to do with them. She's barely had any screen time as the character. Nobody likes this character. It's not a notable character. She's not playing a mainstream character that's on screen and you go, oh wow, I can't believe she showed up. Honestly, the last time that Marvel brought somebody new in and it worked was Owen Wilson for the Loki TV show. I mean, it hasn't worked with Oscar Isaac. It's not working with Julia Louis Dreyfus. I don't think it's going to work with Harrison Ford. They no longer know what to do with movie stars, and yet movie stars keep agreeing to be in their movies because they're going to end up being hit movies, but they're not necessarily going to end up being very good films, and that's what has happened recently. Looking at her overall career, I would love for Julia Louis Dreyfus to show up in a slapstick comedy. I just don't see that happening anytime soon, at least one that's going to be widely popular and in movie theaters. Dreyfus's husband in You Hurt My Feelings is played by Tobias Menzies, who is a therapist who is tired of seeing the same patients over and over again without fixing their issues. He believes it doesn't matter what he thinks of his wife's work because he's not a writer, and that's what's great about the debate this movie is having, is both sides have a great argument. You want your significant other to respect your work, but at the same time, it probably shouldn't be the heart and foundation of the relationship. But at the same time, if the person you care about the most doesn't respect your work, that's going to make for a complicated relationship. Actor Owen Teague plays the son, and he feels like a third wheel because his parents are obsessed with their relationship, and he's a writer who doesn't doesn't want to share his work with his mother due to the fact that she might pretend to love it. And that's what the movie is about. Can you be honest with a family member about how talented or untalented they really are? Or do you have to sugarcoat everything? It's an unanswerable question that's great for a movie. Because I'm sure there's going to be so many parents who watch this movie and go, wow, I really said too many nice things about what my kids were good at, and they made them believe they were good at something they truly weren't. And that also can be a little harmful. It could lead to somebody wasting their time on something they're not truly good at. And I do believe this movie's premise is way more relatable nowadays than if it had come out 15 years ago. I think more people were brutally honest with their kids when they weren't good at something in the early 2000s than they are right now. Like, everyone is told they are good at everything, and when you find out you're not, it can be a very difficult moment. I really like how adults will relate to this movie, and so will kids. That there's a character for both sides of the equation. Teague will next be the lead of the next Planet of the Apes movies. He will play an ape through motion capture, and he's in the upcoming Netflix movie Reptile with Benicio del Toro and Justin Timberlake. You Hurt My Feelings was written and directed by Nicole Holofcener, who previously made 1996's Walking and Talking, 2001's Lovely and Amazing, 2006's Friends with Money, 2010's Please Give, 2013's Enough Said, and 2018's The Land of Steady Habits, and co-wrote the screenplays for 2018's Can You Ever Forgive Me, which she received an Oscar nomination for, and 2021's The Last Duel. She has definitely proven herself to be one of the best screenwriters. Her films have great dialogue. They deal with heavy topics without feeling over the top. She also gets consistently great performances from actresses Catherine Keener in Walking and Talking, Jennifer Aniston in Friends with Money, Rebecca Hall in Now Please, and now two great performances in a row from Julia Louis Dreyfus. Holofcener came to movies fully formed with great dialogue. Where she's really improved, in my opinion, is with the plot of her movies. In some of her films in the past, I feel like it was a bit of a reach where the characters ended up. They work, but it felt clunky at times. That's not the case with You Hurt My Feelings. There was no moment that felt forced just to move the movie forward, and I feel like, again, that was in some of her movies in the past, like a moment just to move the plot forward. That wasn't there in You Hurt My Feelings, and it really shows. I think it's her best film to date. And that's something that the best film directors do. They keep everything that audiences like and get rid of, I wouldn't even call them mistakes, but they clean it up. They get better at their craft. I want Nicole Holofcener to keep making movies like this. I also want to see better movies, of course, but I also want that consistency. I want that great leading female performance at the center. I want the witty dialogue and the back and forths that are in all of her films. And I also love how she explores topics we all think about but rarely talk about or explore. Like in Friends with Money, she's exploring a character played by Jennifer Aniston who is in a friend group of people who are rich, and she isn't anymore. She is now a housemaid and has to deal with the fact that these people look down on her at times. Holofcener is really a screenwriter who explores morals, but in a way that isn't judgy of her characters. Like, she's not looking down upon them. She's having you, the audience, relate to what they're going through and how they got into this situation that they're in. Let's be honest, in the hands of a different filmmaker, this film, You Hurt My Feelings, could go in a completely different direction, a very bad direction. Where if a couple have this kind of argument, they would go for the anger, they would go for the laughs, they wouldn't take the actual topic, like they wouldn't explore it very deeply. I think this film could be very distasteful in the hands of a worse filmmaker, where it ends with the couple just breaking up and that's it. And that's not what you want from a movie like this. You want a movie like this to explore where the characters are coming from and to give both sides equally. She's not saying which side is right right and which side is wrong. She is just giving you both sides and letting you, the audience, figure out how you feel about this topic. There, of course, will be people on the side of Julia Louis Dreyfus's character and those on the side of Tobias Menzies' character. That's what's great about the movie, is you can see both sides. It's a complicated situation. It's not do or die, but it's a topic that a lot of people will relate to. Oscar chances. I know it won't happen, but I really do believe that Julia Louis Dreyfus should be in the conversation for Best Leading Actress. This is her best film performance to date. She is a celebrated icon. I mean, most people think of her as the best thing that was on Seinfeld. I think it's time for movies to embrace the fact that she's trying to be a movie star now. Like, she's done really good work in Enough Said and Now You Hurt My Feelings. I think it's time to take notice of that and put her in the conversation. I don't know if at the end of the year she's going to give a top 5 best performance by an actress, but right now, has she given one up to date? Yes, absolutely. Right now, this is a top 5 performance given by an actress in 2023. And listen, I get it. She'll never be viewed as more of a movie star than a TV actress. Her TV work is always going to overshadow what she does in movies, but I do believe that weirdly she's become underrated in films because of things like Seinfeld and Veep, and those things are all-time great shows. Those are the kind of shows that so many people say are their favorite shows, and the fact that she was even in a show like Veep that can compete with Seinfeld is super impressive. So no, I don't think she'll ever be in a movie as big as Veep or Seinfeld, but I think she is doing just as good work as an actress, and I think that should be recognized at some point. If she continues to go down this route and continues to make movies with Nicole Holofcener and every 2 to 3 to 5 years gives a performance like You Hurt My Feelings, then definitely at some point she's going to get an Oscar nomination. She's also somebody I would love to see work with other comedic filmmakers. Like, wouldn't it be amazing if Julia Louis Dreyfus showed up in a Wes Anderson movie? Like, she's been in very few movies that I would love to see her work with other filmmakers. Another one that comes to mind after just seeing Barbie, I would love to see Julia Louis Dreyfus in a film written and directed by Greta Gerwig. I think she would really work in that kind of tone with that kind of great dialogue. Again, what's so weird about movies nowadays is they don't know what to do with someone as funny as Julia Louis Dreyfus, so they put her in movies like You People. Again, a movie that is not terrible, it's not very good though. Eddie Murphy was the best part, and I was annoyed by the Julia Louis Dreyfus part. Not because Dreyfus is bad in the movie, because of the type of character she's playing. That's not what I want from Julia Louis Dreyfus. I would either want Julia Louis Dreyfus in the funniest movie of the year, or a movie like You Hurt My Feelings, where she really showcases her acting abilities. The last thing I'll say about Dreyfus is I am really interested to see where the rest of her career goes. Will she do a 4th television show and try to be on a longer running show and win another couple Emmys? Or is she invested in her movie career? I'm kind of hoping for the movie career, because then we can see different sides of Julia Louis Dreyfus. We've already seen her be in a long-term sitcom and win Emmys. We've already seen her in a great political satire like Veep. I want to see the more dramatic sides of Julia Louis Dreyfus, while still in some moments giving us that great comedic sensibility like she does in You Hurt My Feelings. And of course, I want her to continue to work with Nicole Holofcener, because after only 2 films, they have formed one of the best directing acting duos working today. I'd be remiss not to bring up the name Catherine Keener, who has worked numerous times with Nicole Holofcener. They, of course, began with the film Walking and Talking. Holofcener has done what a lot of writer-directors do. They choose actresses and actors to play avatars for themselves. I mean, Catherine Keener was playing versions of Nicole Holofcener, and I believe that Julia Louis Dreyfus is playing versions of Holofcener in these last 2 films. Holofcener should be in the conversation for Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars. I mean, what she does with this topic, again, I think in the hands of a lesser writer, this would be a bad movie, or this would be a movie that has a clear clear ending. I think this movie's ending is open-ended and leaves you open for interpretation. Story-wise, it's her best structured movie. I've watched a lot of Nicole Holofcener's work lately, and I watched Kelly Reichardt's work lately, and I think they're two filmmakers that have a lot in common. They make smaller films. I think Kelly Reichardt films are even more quieter. There's less dialogue. You're kind of unsure what it's really about. By the end of it, you get the gist. I think her films are more subtle, but I do see a similarity there. They're both so consistent, and they're both so underrated. Like, these are two of the best filmmakers working today, and I don't think they get their due because their movies are smaller and not necessarily hits. Even though Holofcener has worked with some amazing actresses, these are big-time famous people. Jennifer Aniston, yet how many people have never heard of the movie Friends with Money? And what's interesting about Holofcener is even when recently she tried to do a more mainstream project, being one of the co-screenwriters of The Last Duel with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, that movie flopped at the box office. She just doesn't make popular mainstream movies, and that's not a bad thing. I want more movies like You Hurt My Feelings. I just wish more people saw these movies so you could talk about them. I'm doing a podcast about it because I think more people should see this movie and all of Nicole Holofcener's work. And it's the exact same way I feel about Kelly Reichardt. Like, you should watch these filmmakers' films because they're different than most other films today. They're different than 99.9% of other movies. They have signature styles, and their movies are different yet connected. Like, you could really you could binge these movies. They're that enjoyable. I mean, most of Nicole Holofcener's movies are about 90 minutes long. You get to see movie stars doing something different, and they are very good plot-wise for the most part. Like, I just watched her debut film, Walking and Talking, and could not have been more impressed with Catherine Keener. Like, she discovered a movie star with Catherine Keener, but yet Catherine Keener is more well-known now for movies like Being John Malkovich. If you're a fan of Catherine Keener, you need to go back and watch the movie Walking and Talking. Her chemistry with Liev Schreiber is undeniable in that film. It always kind of confuses me when an indie director isn't super well known when all they do is work with A-list actors. Maybe that shows the days we live in where movie stars aren't as important. Shouldn't the fact that she worked with Jennifer Aniston make Nicole Holofcener a bigger name, or the fact that she's worked with Rebecca Hall? I mean, these are big-time actresses that everyone knows. Normally, you would think Jennifer Aniston was in this movie, Friends with Money, during the height of Friends. Friends had just ended, and she was in this movie, yet it wasn't a hit. Yet A-listers like Julia Louis Dreyfus continue to work with Holofcener because of the quality of the work. And that's why you should check out these movies, not because they have A-listers, because they are of the highest quality. I think if you're a fan of films, when you're younger, you love movies that are plot heavy, you love movies that are complicated, you love movies with twists and turns. That's what you want. The harder it is to understand, the more you love the movie. And I think as you get older, the simpler the movies get, the better they are, because the simple ones are also complicated underneath. Movies like You Hurt My Feelings, they're about real life because they make you think about real life. It's not as much of an escapism as what it used to be when you watch a movie like this. You watch this movie and you go, oh wow, have I been this character before? Have I been in this situation? Have I done that to someone? How would I feel if my parents were like that? How would I feel if my significant other didn't love what I was doing? Those are the type of questions this movie makes you ask. And movies that don't relate to you, you don't have to ask those hard questions. And sometimes I feel like that's why people avoid movies like this, because they don't want movies to relate to their real life. They want to escape. I think I'm just getting to a point where I want the movies I'm watching to relate to something that could happen in real life. I love superhero movies, or at least I did to a certain degree. But now I'm in a place where I want to watch a movie about a human being going through something that I might at some point go through. And that's what You Hurt My Feeling delivers. It's an experience that I might go through and something I can definitely relate to to, and I think 99.9% of people can relate to. And if you haven't, you should definitely do a double feature of this movie and 2013's Enough Said with Julia Louis Dreyfus in both of them. And in Enough Said, she is paired with James Gandolfini, arguably the greatest TV actress working with the greatest TV actor. Thanks for listening to this edition of Pop Culture Spotlight. I'm Cameron McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Thursday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I highly recommend you check out the movie You Hurt My Feelings. Next week on the podcast, I'm talking about the movie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, co-written and produced by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg. So tune into that and please rate, review, and subscribe.